from our underground bunker that is corona proof.
Corona can't hold us down.
Project 224 is coming at you. Hey, everyone, how we doing?
How's everybody doing out there?
In your house, lonely, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So this is life now.
It's kind of weird. But I will say this. During this time, we've had people come up come out to us and say, hey, are you guys going to drop another podcast soon? Because we'd like to hear it. I don't know if I told you that. But people have been mentioning to me hey, can you guys drop another podcast? We want to listen to them and stuff like that. I was like, hey.
And go hold us down.
So, yeah. So we're here. We're here for the people.
Ain't nobody hold me down.
How are you doing, man?
I'm doing okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
So life is, it's interesting. Life has changed.
Yeah.
It's different. Sure. Everybody says in medicine and all this, that this is just going to be one of those times, one of those years, one of those events that we're all going to remember.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so
it's just going to be in the history books.
It's crazy.
Which is crazy. Yeah. We're living history literally right now.
And so, I didn't see the last count that we had just because the numbers keep going up, and there's been all sort of issues with trying to figure out what the true number is because we're having issues with testing and not everyone gets tested. And so I know, where we are locally, at last I looked, we were at 9, and we actually have stayed there for a couple of days. So that's been good. I know South Florida's been hit pretty hard.
Yeah.
They have 200 cases.
But I think a lot of that is people not being wise, going out to the beaches and partying and stuff. It's come on.
So we're Did you see that video
of the kid?
Yeah, I don't care. It's
I don't
my
care if I
spring
get corona.
break.
Yeah, it's come on. As much as we hype up this generation sometimes on here, I read stuff like that and I was and that brings it down.
Come on, man.
That kind of brings it down.
Part of it, I mean, and that stuff we'll get into here in a little bit is. That's part of loving one another, is realizing you're right. You may not get that sick and you shouldn't necessarily be that scared of it, but how about your grandpa? How about the old guy that you encounter at the store and other things too? So
this virus is not just about us.
Right. We are literally all in this together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then, obviously prayers for California, for New York. As of today of this recording, which is the 20th of February, we New York is locked down now. I think they've ordered
as of today. Yeah,
all their residents have to be in their home. California's done the same.
I think you can go to the grocery store, you can get gas, stuff like that. But other than that, you have to stay home.
Yeah. So even if that happens, we're gonna figure out a way to bring you a podcast. I don't know. We'll do Zoom. Well, that's a new thing we've heard of.
Yeah, we've been hearing about Zoom.
Or I don't know. We'll Skype. We'll figure out a way to get you a show, guys. Yeah. Don't you worry.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things we'll talk about too. Life has changed, and there's a new norm now.
Mm-hmm.
And so that new norm is something that we need to get used to.
Right.
And I think there's great opportunities in this.
Right.
And I think there's a great opportunity for the church. I think there's a great opportunity for people to branch out and learn things and do things differently. And I don't think life is going to be the same for us.
Yeah.
But there's all sort of fun memes in there that we've been going around.
So here's one funny thing. Well, it's not funny. Here's one thing that happened out of all this. Baseball got shut down. Just kidding, everybody. Just kidding. But in all reality, I'm not going to miss it very much. I mean, come on.
I mean, how
NBA
many
season
so what was that? It's day 2 without sports. There's a lady singing in the couch next to me. She says she's my wife. She seems nice.
That's so great.
So yeah,
but it is interesting. We were talking about it. It's sad that it takes something like this to bring families together.
Yeah,
for families to spend time together. I think I saw something. There's going to be more people. Well, someone was talking about how there's going to be more families spending time around the dinner table.
Yeah,
now more than ever
before
because of this.
There's no little league. There's no gymnastics. There's no.
You know what
nothing.
It does? It just reminds you of. Every time I'm reading stuff like this, and then in the midst of all this, I don't know if you saw there was a earthquake.
No.
Oh man, I wish I would have had it in front of me. There was an earthquake just this past week, and it I think it was in Utah. And it was so big in Utah that it knocked out electricity, just knocked it out.
Oh man,
5.7 on the Richter scale.
Wow.
So leaves tens of thousands without power.
Wow.
This happened last week. So I'm reading all this and I'm thinking to myself, if people don't think that it's coming closer for Christ coming back, what other signs does he have to do?
Yeah.
I mean, it is literally,
it's awesome.
Things are coming out of in the Bible, things that were talked about, and we're going through it right now. So it's like, man,
the urgency of the gospel is something that's definitely come from this. Yeah. And I think that's something that we need to be a lot more aware of is how do we turn this into a gospel opportunity? Mm-hmm. And you're right, because, the Lord's return is imminent. Yeah. But one of the fun things, or one of the things that's always good to think about, you think about the why. Why did God do this? Right. I'm personally a guy that doesn't believe that God has a singular purpose for doing things. I think he does multiple things at once with one event, right? Mm-hmm. So, but there's, lots of, how divided we were as a nation for a long time. And all of a sudden this hits. Yeah. And a lot of that's gone by the wayside. Mm-hmm. A lot of it is now fighting coronavirus, what we can do. Now, there's still some people who are doing some fighting, but other people are like, kind of time to shut up. Right. Even the government right now. Like Republicans and Democrats are trying to come together to figure out what's going on because what is it? Yesterday I saw that some of the Senate now are starting to get it. Yeah. It's like God sent us to our rooms. He's like, y'all need to stop fighting. Go to your room.
That's exactly what it's like. That's exactly what it's like. You guys are all in timeout until I'm done with you.
And I mean, there's been fighting in the church. I mean, bad fighting in the church. Yeah. And there's been, we haven't been more polarized, I think, in our country than, probably since the Civil War. Yeah. And so, God has used a lot of things to bring us back. And I think there's a lot. Life won't be the same as far as electronic. I mean, just the other day today rather, I was going to get something from McDonald's, and I was going to hand him my card, and I'm like, then he's going to touch it, and I don't know if he's washed his hands. And not to say he's a dirty person, but like we're supposed to not be trying to what is that social distancing thing? Yep. Which we're totally not doing right now. Right. But, hey, yeah, this is for you guys. I will risk my life for you. We're sitting there, and I'm like, y'all got Apple Pay? You know what I mean? Yeah. And because people are like, you gotta be careful about touching money. Right. And you gotta be careful about touching money. You gotta be like, I don't want cash anymore. I think I've gone to some places and they've had gloves on. Do you not have gloves on? Nope. Oh yeah. See, I went somewhere the other day and they had gloves on, so I was thankful for that at least. Yeah. But then I thought, what if? But I mean, gloves, if you don't change your gloves after every time, you're still touching dirty money, so that's on there. It's just not on you. Right. But then you give the person back, so you have to be the person wearing gloves to have it benefit. Yeah. There's just a lot, like you said, there's a lot that's going to change. We were talking about practical things, like movie theaters. Right? Movies. Like Universal is releasing all their movies now online. Movies that were supposed to come out in the movie theaters, they're putting them online so people can watch them. You still got to rent them, but I told you, I was like, okay, if this becomes the new normal, I would much rather sit in the comfort of my living room, with popcorn, my feet up, comfortable, just watching movies, just like I would in a movie theater. Yeah, absolutely. So this could be happening. Disney releasing their stuff early. Yeah, it's not taking months now. I think one of the movies that they're releasing right now, I think they're releasing it in a couple weeks. It's still out in the theaters right now. And they're going to release it in a couple weeks. And I thought, why didn't they do this before? It's so funny for us, because our kids wanted to watch it. And let's be honest, my wife wanted to watch it too. So we got Frozen 2 early. Right. Don't judge those Frozen 2. But no, I came home one night, my wife was watching it. I was like, what are you doing? And I saw it on the screen. I was like, oh, I'll be in the back. So. I saw it before. We had bought it though. Right. Oh, when it first came out, gotcha. And then they're like, "Oh, we're gonna release it early on Disney Plus," and you're like, "So many people are upset." Yeah, a lot of people are upset about that. I mean, whatever. But I mean, Disney was trying. They're trying. Yeah, they're doing what they can. Right. So, and what else? What else is going on? So, grocery store. Even going to the grocery store. Have you seen that they have what do they call it? It's like senior hour now at these grocery stores. I'm glad. Yeah. And it's funny because it's the early hour. It's like the first hour. They know we're all asleep. Yeah. They all been we're all asleep anyway. So it's like, yeah, that's fine. That's fine. My thing is give them more than an hour because it's going to take them a while to get around a store, considering there's nothing there too. But I'm thankful that stores are starting to do that at least, Yeah. And a lot of stores are closing early because they're trying to sanitize everything down for the next day. Went to Publix the other day and I love going there because you walk in, they're nonstop sanitizing the carts all day, spraying them down, which is great. It's just a lot that's happening, and it all comes down to it's weird. It's like humans, shouldn't we have just learned what it meant to be clean to begin with, bro? Washing our hands and not sneezing on people, coughing. I was reading a guy's Facebook comment. He travels for business. He's a salesman. He travels around the country all the time, and he's a guy that I grew up with. And he was saying, for the first time in my life, everyone who left the bathroom in the airport washed their hands. I was like, He's been doing this for 15 years.
Well, it blows my mind. My wife knows this. One of my biggest pet peeves is when I go into a public bathroom. And women, hopefully you've never been in a men's bathroom, but there's a lot of urinals in there against the wall.
Right.
I'm thankful when there's little dividers between them.
Correct.
Sometimes there's not, but I'm glad when there are. But it blows my mind when somebody will be at a urinal and I just see them walk out of the bathroom.
Yeah.
It's like you want to grab them by the shirt and say, hey, you forgot something. There was another step after what you just did,
Hey,
wash your hands, man. Okay. One last thing I got to say this. We were at Disney a few weeks ago before all this like really blew up. And we're at Epcot and I'm in the bathroom and this kid is next to me in the stall. When I say kid, he was a teenager. So he's old enough to know. He had a white jacket on. I remember shorts on. He gets done. Now I got done at the same time. So I turned to wash my hands because the sink's like right next to me. I mean, literally right next to me. So I go to wash my hands thinking he's going to come to the sink next to me. I was going to tell him, hey, this soap is not it. The kid walks right out. Not only walks out, like ran out to the point. I got done real quick and I walked out. I was like, babe, did you see a kid with a white jacket on? She's like, what? I was like, there's a kid that just ran out of here. He didn't wash his hands. And I said it so loud because I was like, man, we need to start embarrassing people for that.
Calling them out.
Yeah. It's like shame.
You're spreading disease.
Man, quit it. Just wash your hands. You learn as a kid to wash your hands.
This is where we got here. I've told you, I've said so many times, we could stop so many diseases. I've added a third thing. If we could, number one, stay monogamous.
Yes.
Number two, wash our hands correctly and frequently. Number three, learn to cough in our elbow.
Right.
I don't think I told you. Even at the hospital, I had a patient that, we had the mask on, they're coughing, right? And they have their mask on and I'm talking to them and they bring their mask down and cough and then put their mask back up. And I was like, that's the whole reason it's there.
Oh.
I'm like, come on, man.
And I read a meme that said, this is why they don't let us into Area 51. Stuff like that. We don't deserve it. We as humans do not deserve to know more. Like, come on.
It was just awesome.
He's
just like, I just like stopped.
Okay, since we're on joke hour right now. So there was I saw this video of this kid. There's like this thing going around. Please don't do this. Because if you did this to me, I would probably not be happy. There's this thing going around where I guess you'll be at a store or something and you act like you're sneezing, but you'll have a water bottle. And you spray the person.
No, that is how you get punched in the face.
I saw one of this man at Walmart and this kid came up and he was like, achoo, and but he sprayed him real quick, but they hit the water bottle. And the guy turned around, he's like, just looks at him. The kid just standing there looking at him. I mean, literally just staring there looking at him. And the guy's like, is there a problem? He goes, no. And the guy turned back around and the kid did it again. And the guy goes, if you did it, and I was thinking, man, these kids are getting bold. I would not do something like that. No way.
Okay. And let's talk about this. Okay. Real quick. Do not do this either. I don't know where these challenges come from or who comes up with them, but have you seen the COVID lick the toilet seat challenge? Yes. Yes.
What?
Yeah. So you know how you had the Tide Pod challenge?
This is going to be a weird question.
The cinnamon challenge.
Is it your toilet? It doesn't matter, but is yours or public toilets?
I don't know. It's just, I've seen a couple of them now where people are just licking a toilet seat and putting on their Insta, whatever they do for these challenges and where they post them. I don't know if it's TikTok or
for what reason?
Insta.
To get the virus?
I'm not scared of Corona. Yeah. So,
you know how in the Bible, in the Old Testament, it talks about how kids that were disobedient, whatever, you just took them out in the streets and stoned them. We need to go back to that.
What?
At some point, we need to stop paying these people. Don't even give them jobs anymore. Just let them kind of fade away into obscurity. This is what's happening. Okay, since we're on this is great. Okay, so when we talked about what we're going to talk about today, we just wanted to have some fun with you guys today.
Right.
Just have a lighthearted, but
just talk some
craziness. But in the midst of all this, but there was something. Someone in our church, a young lady at our church, said that she went to go take her SAT. I guess 2 weeks ago or something on a Saturday, and she said that a lot of the kids didn't show up because of the virus. So they decided to grade the SAT on a curve.
Okay.
That's what I said. I was like, wait, what?
So she got a perfect.
So she said, yeah, they're just because they felt bad because a lot of the students were going to have emotional emotional trauma, and so they're grading it. I was like, wait, you're talking about the SAT that gets kids into college.
Correct.
You're just gonna grade them on a curve,
right?
Like, so things are just some things just aren't making sense,
right? That's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know, but I will say this: I did read something about we might get checks in the mail. That's kind of nice.
Yeah.
And here's the thing: I read this too. Those of you that said that he's not my president, you can hand those checks over to me.
That's right. Because he's been mine.
He's going to be your president while the check shows up.
Yeah.
That's right.
My question is where they get that money from.
I don't know.
If you just had $1,200 or, $1,200 a person just laying around.
Yeah.
Where's that?
Why are we paying taxes?
Where's that? Where'd that come from?
Why are we paying taxes?
I mean, cool. I'm getting it. Good.
Yeah. I'm not going to complain when it shows up.
But where's it come from?
Yeah. Yeah. Like
they just passed, I don't know how many, was it $1 trillion? Like they just passed a
like
$1 trillion like package or like.
It's like Sesame Street's running our government.
I mean, did a grandparent country die and leave us some money? Like, where did this come from?
What was that guy's name? Count Dracula was his name Count Dracula in Sesame Street? He's like one, ha ha.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like we're doing in the government right now. 1 trillion.
I think it's just the count. Yeah.
We're just like throwing numbers out there.
We're just gonna throw lots of zeros.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. So all that to say, this is where we are right now.
Yeah.
And let's just be honest. And I know we're like making fun lighthearted, but in some ways we have to be right now.
Absolutely.
Because everything's so serious and everything's so just paranoia that it's just we need to laugh too,
right.
And one of the things I was thinking about on more of a practical thing is I thought about some of the families who don't have good family environments. And right now they are quarantined with this not good family environment. These are situations we need to pray for, let's like abusive fathers or even abusive mothers, whatever it is, kids
especially
that are
in this stressful environment. Yeah.
Kids that enjoy going to school because they're away from that.
Right.
And now they don't get that for a while. So we need to be praying about those type of situations. The idea of people losing their jobs through this is going to cause more stress among adults, parents, that they're going to start taking it out on kids, which they don't deserve, but it's going to happen.
Right.
And the fact that kids aren't in school right now, what do we do? Like, okay, you go to work today, or no, I go to work. And then all of a sudden you find out you don't have a job anymore.
Right.
This is going to cause just a lot. To the point I thought, man, this could come to the point of looting one day. Who knows? Yeah. Especially if they start shutting down cities.
Right.
People breaking into people's homes and stuff.
Right.
This comes down to where we, everything has to be revolved around our relationship in Christ. As Christians, this is where the rubber meets the road. Like what you said, like this time really defines who we are as a people, right? As humans, as government, as a church, and even going down as Christians. Like, in what way are we? When the Bible says that when I was naked, you clothed me. When I was hungry, you gave me food.
Right.
Well, here's that time.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because when you're on your last roll of toilet paper and your neighbor's like, "Hey, we're out of this. Do you have this?" And are you gonna be the one to say, we don't have it, but here, I give to the least of these type thing. There's so many situations now that are gonna come about that it's really gonna test us.
Right.
Because everything's easy, when life is just moving. But I even thought to the fact of it makes me appreciate just the congregation of a church.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like being together. So many times people just don't go to church because like, I'm gonna sleep in. But man, this last week, just not being there. I was telling you Wednesday night, just being in an empty room, leading music, just me and my guitar. And I thought, this is great and everything is personal worship, but I miss the body. I miss being around people, and Sunday will be the same. And a lot of churches, pretty much every church, I'm sure right now.
It's pretty much, the governments have made special pleas to churches to stop.
Right.
And it hasn't been mandated in Florida yet.
Mm-hmm.
But it was one of those things where eventually, even though I know our elder board didn't want to, they felt that with all of the closures and the kind of pressure and just these special pleas that they were doing,
right,
that instead of it being like where we're the last one standing and everyone's looking at us like, why are you guys being jerks?
Right.
I mean, they're supposed to limit crowds to 10 people or less and all that. Then just to show that we do love our neighbor, and that we would close. And so it was a hard decision.
Yeah.
And I know last podcast we came out and we talked a lot about that. In fairness, that was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, a lot's happened
And
since then.
things have changed drastically in those 2 weeks.
Yep.
So I don't have any problem with what I said that time, and then changing what this time, because the world has changed.
Right. Everything about it has changed.
I mean, so I think there was a time, where you could still have met, and we actually did meet that week as a church. And then as the next week came upon us and more was coming out, then it was like, okay, there comes to a point where you're just being, obstinate for no reason.
Yeah.
So,
right.
But yeah, I think you're right. In this time, we have the gospel hope, right? We serve a living God, right? We serve a God that has hope. We have no fear in death,
right?
Because Christ has conquered death. We have to act like it. That's what we've talked about before.
Right.
Is God still on his throne? Yes. Something I want to read, Habakkuk 3, verse 17. Now, realize this is when Habakkuk knew that they were going to get taken over by an invading army. They were going to get obliterated as a nation. This was God's judgment upon them. They were going to be dragged out of their homes. Many were going to die. Men, women, children, babies were going to be slaughtered. They were going to be dragged into another country, enslaved, abused. Hard times were ahead. And what did Habakkuk say at the end of his book, after saying everything that was going to happen and showing it? He said, "And though the fig tree should not blossom, nor fruit be on the vines, the produce of the olive will fail, and the fields will produce no food. The flock be cut off from the fold, and there be no herd in the stalls. Yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will take joy in the God of my salvation. God the Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He makes me tread on the high places." That is what we have to have. That is that joy that cannot be moved.
Yeah.
That can't be quelched, because no matter what, we have both joy here on earth because we serve the living God, but we also know that our joy resides in heaven. And no matter what happens here, death is actually freedom for us. Death frees us to heaven. Death frees us of our sinful body. Death frees us of our sinful life, our lust for sin and whatnot. And it frees us to worship God purely. And it's an awesome thing. And so we need to live in light of that. And we need to be people who are having courage in that.
Yeah, that's good. That is good. Because right now, a lot of people are just living in the spirit of fear. You know? I was outside today talking to my next door neighbor, and he just bought this amazing RV yesterday, and we are like talking about it and stuff. And I said, "Are you going to go somewhere to get away?" And he said, "I thought about it." He says, "But where are we going to run to? And
there's nowhere to go.
There's nowhere to go." He says, "We don't want to be stuck somewhere." And but then we just got talking about the Lord and stuff. And he goes to a local church, which I was really glad to talk about. And he said, "I need to make it over to your church sometime." But we just got talking about how the hope that we have is different from the hope that the world has.
Correct.
So the world is hoping that, well, man, I may not see my 401k one day, or I may not even get to see my retirement, or this or that, whatever it is. And I'm not downplaying what's happening right now at all. But as a believer, we're thinking, okay, this is bad.
Right.
Like, we're not down, like, this is a bad situation we're in, but I know the one who is orchestrating everything. And I know the one who is allowing me to wake up today to even be a part of this podcast.
Right.
I know the God who allowed the sun to rise today and is going to allow me to see the moon tonight. The stars are still in the sky. The waves are still coming in. You know what I mean? Like, the birds are still chirping. They still sing a song of the Creator. And I know this Creator. And I think, man, as bad as this is, if something were to happen, I know what's happening to me.
Right.
I know where I'm going.
Right.
And so it is a thing that says, like, Lord, sometimes my bones just feel like they're crushing, inside. And this is what a lot of the world's feeling right now. Like, there's no hope.
No.
There's literally no hope, especially when we think about there may not be a vaccine for this for a year or so.
Yeah. No, depending upon what they do for compassionate use and whatnot, it's going to be a year.
Right.
Of course.
And so what happens in that time? So we're talking to the church now. Church, what happens during this time? Like, where are we? What are we doing?
Right.
Or are we so fixated on our families, which, again, God gave us to begin with?
Right.
To say, let me just be closed in. Now, obviously, to be wise, we have to be closed in some ways to be wise, but there are ways we can minister to people. Drop off stuff at someone's house.
Right.
If you know that someone's in need, just say, "Hey, what do you need? I know you can't go out. Let me go out and see if I can find it." And then just leave the bag at their front door.
Right.
And just say, "Hey, I left it at your door. and love you, whatever it is. I don't know. You can record something that if someone can't be with their children, record a video of you reading a book, send it to them so they can show it to their kids or something like that. Right. I mean, there's so many ways we can minister. There's some friends of mine in town who own a distillery who we're talking about, and they're starting to make hand sanitizer for nothing. And I went and saw them yesterday and just said, I thank you guys for doing this. It's awesome. And they said, we just want to find ways to contribute. Yeah. And they said, what the amazing thing is we're seeing that it's giving people in the community something to do. Right. There's a lot of people starting to just bring in sugar or bottles, whatever it is that they need to make this thing. People are doing that. So there are ways to get outside the fear, even if you're not a believer.
Sure.
To keep your mind moving to say, okay, how can I contribute to society?
Yeah.
And that's, as Christians, we need to be the first ones there.
And I think after we come back from break here, we'll talk about that, how we can fulfill the greatest 2 commandments of loving God with all our heart. And then, like you just said, like you just alluded to, we'll talk about more about how we can love each other.
Yeah.
And then how that will work out more practically. So stay tuned after the break and we'll do that. All right, guys. All right, we are back.
We're back from the break.
Hope you enjoyed that little commercial.
So I guess should we tell people why we do a break? Like, did we do that before?
I don't think so. Yeah. So right now we have technology limitations.
Yeah.
Interesting thing is on cameras. So we're shooting this on a Canon camera, an EOS 5.
Canon.
Is it 5?
It's a Canon Rebel T7.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, T7. That's right. So because of taxes in other countries, they actually make a camera only able to shoot 30 minutes of video at a time.
Right.
So we have to limit.
We have to kind of stop around 30 minutes. So I think, do new cameras go past that maybe?
They're making some new ones. They've done away with that because people are using cameras now more often
like this.
Right, to do stuff like this. And people are getting
So if you'd like to contribute to us,
you
know what to do. We can use a new camera for this stuff. We have not because we asked not, right?
Exactly.
So just keep asking. Yeah. All right.
Cool. So where we were at was, how are we going in this time? Where some people see hardship, you got to see opportunity. I see tons of opportunity for the church here, for us as a church, to be ministering the word, to be putting out the gospel. So how do we as a church in this time love God,
right,
and then love each other?
Right. Because they should go hand in hand.
Correct.
Right.
If you love God, then you're going to love the image of God in which man was made.
Right. Yeah. Right. And so many times we think, okay, if I love other people, then I'm going to love God. That's not how it is.
Right.
If you love God, it leads to loving other people.
Correct. Absolutely.
And so, there has to be a way to look at this and, to love the Lord your God with all your strength. So what you read in Habakkuk, and a friend of mine, Nathan, shout out to Nathan, because I know he watches a lot. Appreciate that, from Arkansas. I saw something today where he posted almost like a devotional of his thoughts video, and he was reading from the Valley of Vision, and it was a prayer about this type of situation, like when my heart frets when things like this happen, but my soul yet longs for the Lord. That type of prayer,
Yeah.
This is that time.
Yeah.
As a Christian,
absolutely.
So to love the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, and strength, it means like you're loving the Lord your God in spite of, or even in the midst of the coronavirus.
Correct.
Even in the midst of, I hope not, but losing your job. You know what I mean? Even in the midst of not knowing how to homeschool your child right now, because it's just not what you feel like you're not equipped to do. But just loving the Lord and saying, God, I trust you. Right. That's the biggest thing. And just saying, I'm trusting that what you're doing is good and it's right in this situation.
Sure.
And when you are in that mind frame of trusting him in all situations, well, then you do start to love other people, because you're saying, look, I have this hope that I can't even explain. For some reason, I have peace in this. This is where it's coming from. Right. My hope in the Lord. Let me tell you about that. And then it leads to the love you have for other people. I talk about Publix, but I was in Publix quite a few days, and one of the young guys in our BFG works there in our Crossroads group, and he just kind of asking him how he's doing and stuff like that. And I said, "Are people nice to you?" He goes, "No." Because people are not nice right now. And he says it's getting worse. And I was like, that stinks.
Yeah.
It just stinks. And here's the thing. Practically thinking, sometimes Christians, we're some of those worst people in those situations.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it's almost like we're taking off the cloak of Christianity to go grocery shopping. Right. So it's like, fend for yourself, every man for himself. And then when I walk back out to my car, then I'm going to put it back on.
Right.
And that's not how that works. Man, when you're in the grocery store, and there's one thing left, and you see somebody wanting that one thing,
right,
and it's an elderly person on top of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like situations like that.
Do you have I mean, if because as a church we should have a support network, right?
Right.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, like there's things you got to do to think outside of the box, and as the church, we should be coming together. That allows us to be more giving as a people, more generous as a people. If you know how to bake bread, go get flour, because you know what, it wasn't in a short supply when we went to was the stuff to make the bread.
Right.
The bread was gone.
Yeah.
So I told my wife, pick up stuff. We'll make it. I know how to make it. Let's do it. And that's the thing. It's like, and you better believe that if it really got that bad, I'll make bread for anybody.
Right.
Come on over. Here's a loaf. That's what you have to have that mentality of doing. Learning what you're doing. There, maybe some people out there own chickens, right? Yeah. If you own chickens, then get them chickens fed, and I mean, other people can bring you scraps or help bring you food or whatever to feed them, and then you're, I mean, old school barter system or whatever, giving them eggs for it. There's things we can do, and that's my point. Is we have to think outside the box here, how we can help and how we can be generous. So then we aren't people who are doing things like you said at the store, which we shouldn't do either, right? The widow gave all she had when she had nothing left,
right?
And the widow and her son with Elisha, I always forget if it's Elijah or Elisha, when she only had enough bread and oil to make one more, and they're like, we're gonna eat this meal and die, and they shared it with him, and then God blessed that by saying, you're not gonna run out. Every day I'm gonna give you more. Yeah. I'm gonna refill the oil. I'm gonna refill the flour. You're gonna have stuff to make. So God will do that for you. God will bless you. He's promised blessing for people who obey his commandments. Why don't you take God up on what he's already said? Yeah. Like, these are the commands that he's already. Now, I'm not Creflo Dollar or whatever saying, do this and God's going to make you a millionaire. Right. I'm just saying, do whatever you can to be generous. And God has told us when we're generous, he will bless us.
Yeah, absolutely. That's good. It's really interesting because there are situations where that's not happening.
Right.
And like you said, the church having a support system, some practical ways you can do this is reach out to the church. I know most churches aren't closed right now. I mean, they're closed as far as like
you can still go in the office. They're not having
gathering, right? But phone calls, a lot of times you can call and say, hey, do you know of anyone that needs something? Or hey, what if you're on the other side to say, my family and I could really use such and such. We can't, like, this is where the church comes together, and it has to go outside of just us, right? Outside the walls, like you were saying, just sharing and giving those things.
And I'm going to say too, along the lines of the church, do not forget the pastors in your church, and do not forget the staff in your church in this regard. Just because you don't have a service you're going to does not mean you shouldn't be giving. Yeah. Okay. There's ways to give online many times. Drop off a check. I don't know. Teach your office how to get Venmo. But guys, if we're not meeting as a church, many churches live week to week off of what the people give them. Yeah. And we cannot be people who right now go, well, if I'm not going, it's not a business transaction. We're not giving to the church. Remember, you give to the Lord. And so if you aren't giving every week because you think this is some business transaction, well, it's like, well, I didn't get the pomp and circumstance of the songs and the sermon and the lights and the music and all that, then that's not how it works. Right. You give to the Lord, and God is using that money to raise up these men, and the church needs this stuff right now. Yeah. So don't forget your church. I know, and I'm the one saying it right now. Because you recently came on to our church, right? And so I don't want people to feel weird asking for money because they did that. But I'm telling you, as a person who does not need the money, given to the church from my livelihood, it is still very important that you do that. Yeah. So I think that's a big thing too that I want us to remember that we're doing. Yeah. Because it's commanded by God, and again, we have to see that we give to God, not the church. Right. And I'm glad that you said that, because giving is a part of worship. So for instance, when we gather Sunday, it's going to be our band, just our praise band, our pastor, basically, no one else in the building.
we're going to do it just like a service. There's going to be a time for offering, and people can give online to say, if you're at your home right now, there's a place. So I mean, there's times to give. And here's the thing, it goes beyond even the people in the building.
Right.
Like these churches are giving to missionaries outside that desperately depend on support to survive out there.
Remember,
that are going through harder situations than we are.
It's a pandemic. It's all around the world.
Yeah.
So our missionaries that are in Italy, our missionaries that are in France, our missionaries that are, you know, we have missionaries in the Philippines, wherever they are, they're affected.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the giving is very important during this time. And that's good. And you know what? It teaches your children.
Absolutely.
Right? They're not down in children's church, right? They're not down with the youth. They're sitting next to you on your couch watching to see how you respond.
Correct.
Is church is worship really just when you're in a building, or does it happen like when you're together? Like I hope, and one of my prayers that I have for this Sunday is that, man, I hope families all over gather in the living rooms and worship. You know, sing together, sing the songs together, and enjoy opening the Bible together. Saying, son, now this is offering. This is why we give, you know, and showing like, you know, this is the time that we give offering. This is what happens in this time. Praying when the pastor's praying. You know what I mean? Like it could be a really sweet time. And then what it does, when we do come back together in the building together, imagine what that's going to be like. Yeah. It's going to be like a homecoming again. Yeah. You know, it's going to be really sweet. And so like, don't take this time for granted. Like God has given us, like you said, it's like he's put us in timeout to say, I've given you all these blessings. Right. You've taken it for granted. Now I'm going to see, like, understand what I've given you again, you know? And see how mighty you guys thought you were. I'm going to take one of the smallest things on the planet, a virus. Yeah. Which is literally just some DNA and a little thing, and I'm gonna bring you to your knees on that. It's funny you talk about the singing part. So this past Wednesday when we did it, and we were singing when you were leading us online, and our daughter was putting her hands over her ears like, it's so loud. And I'm like, it don't matter. I'm singing. That's funny. That's great. But yeah, great. So we need to be people who are still generous. And what I'll also say too is, when you go to give, okay, I know that right now there are going to be a ton of people who are advertising on TV, online, on Facebook groups and all that to give to some organization. And what I want to say is the best place to give is your church. And I'll tell you why. Many of these other places, you don't know how legit they are. If you've ever seen those actual studies where they show how much money goes to the actual people when you give, sometimes it's like 12 cents on the dollar actually goes to helping people. The rest of it goes to the whole infrastructure, to paying the people in the corporation and all that. They can still call themselves not for profit. So it's a very, it can be very tricky, misleading type of thing. The best place to give is your church. If you want, if you've given a lot and you want to give to an organization that you know is good, the Red Cross or something like that, that's fine. But be careful of some of these relief funds that just pop up, because so many times they're not legit. Yeah. They're not actually giving to the money. And remember, you're supporting gospel ministry and gospel relief when you give to your church. And that's what people need. People do need money, right? People need to pay their bills. People need food. They need the gospel. Yeah. That's what the church is going to give them. Yeah, that's good. That's really good. I'm glad that you shared that. So the first thing is loving God. Right. Right. And then that leads to loving people. Right. And I think you brought up some awesome things before. Now is the time, guys, where we can think out of the box. I know me personally, I've had to learn how to do some things that if I were to talk to myself when I was in my 20s, I'd laugh at myself. Because I'm sitting there trying to look at how to design memes, how to put stuff out for Project 224. I've really tried to step up putting stuff out, putting Bible verses and, putting them on cool looking little backgrounds and all of that jazz. It looks great. But that was something that I'm like, okay, well, this is the time that I need to do this. And and again, we still haven't made any money, and it doesn't matter if I make money on this, right? I'm doing this to try and be an encouragement to people. So almost every day, something that I'm reading, something that I've come across in my own devotional, whatnot, I'm trying to put out to people so they know. And I'm trying to be encouraging. I'm trying to be inspiring, not because I want you to give money. I'm really trying to help build the body at this time. Yeah. And I think that's what we all need to do. If you don't know how to do it, learn. You know how many things right now are free to learn? I mean, Ligonier put out everything. Yeah.
whatever they have, you don't need a subscription anymore.
Right.
Just go. They've
Yep.
opened it. So many places have done that because they know people are stuck at home.
Mm-hmm.
So go learn how to do something. Learn how to make a video.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we've had to do.
There's a lot of people that are artists, like that draw, and they're just doing online free. Teach your kids how to draw, like you were just talking about with your wife. You know,
teach your kids how to draw. They did for a book that we do with the pigeon and a bird and the pigeon. There's both a pigeon and a duck, I think.
Right.
So and so they it teaches them how to draw the pigeon. There's all sort of stuff. Brad Paisley's put on free concerts from home.
I watched some of that yesterday.
And that's what if you have a talent for the Lord and you can bless people with it, then do it.
Yeah.
Reading, doing, I don't know. Whatever you can be doing. If you have jokes, tell jokes.
Right.
Put something out. There's so many things you can be doing. If you're artistic, put out those artistic memes and things. Show people that the world is still a beautiful place because it is.
Yeah.
And when we focus too much on one thing, we're going to get lost and learn, like you said, how to get other people's needs.
Yeah.
How to meet them. There's so much. I don't know.
And here's the thing, like, again, practically, if you're watching this, like if you're watching a video of this, you have means to do this.
Correct.
Right? Because you have a phone probably or a computer or somewhere. You're watching this somehow, which means you can do this. Like it's simple. Just get the word out. Send a message to someone that you know is just cooped up. And here's the thing, there's a lot of like single moms, single dads, college age people who could not go all the way back home. So they're like stuck in town somewhere. I read the whole thing about all the Disney workers who got sent home like literally that day that were in the college program that they didn't really know what to do now. And so there's so many people out there that really have nowhere to turn.
Absolutely.
Be that light, be that salt. Just take a moment and just care for someone more than yourself.
Yeah.
And I think that's what it comes down to, My wife said she was in Publix the other day and she just sat there and she watched this, and I'm not going to say who it was, but there was not a young lady. There was a lady from our church who was helping this older lady she didn't know. And she could tell the lady was struggling. And so she kind of put her card to the side and she says, "How can I help you?" And she said she watched her just kind of walk up and down the aisles and she helped the lady get the stuff while people were like all over the place, like hoarding. And she walked around with the lady, helped her, put her groceries to the side, kind of left the cart there, and then came back after she put the lady through the checkout, sitting there. And then she came back to her groceries. And I thought, that's what we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Love someone more than yourself.
Absolutely.
And I thought, man, I'm so thankful. I was thankful that she said she was from our church. I was like, oh, thank you. It's just cool to see that, to see how it shows that God is real.
Right.
And it shows that God is real in your actions, in your life, in your speech, in your thoughts. If you're going around just spreading chaos, well, then people are going to think you worship a God of chaos.
Right.
But if you go around saying, look, I understand this is dramatic and this is something we've never seen before, a lot of us in this lifetime. But I also know that God will deliver us through this. And it may not be this lifetime.
Right.
Right? As a believer, we may not see us delivered from this. But as a believer, you will be delivered from this in some way.
Yeah. That's what we should be doing. And that's how we can get the gospel out.
Mm-hmm.
We get the gospel out by using this as a shining moment. And that's what you said. It could, we are not people who should just be thinking about ourselves. We should be helping other people. And in fact, interestingly enough, even psychological journals have come out and shown that when you take time and you spend it not thinking about yourself and helping other people, it leads to lower stress. It leads to less worry. It leads to less anxiety because that's the way God made us.
Yeah.
Now, we didn't have to know that. Like, psychology didn't discover something new. We've known that from the Bible.
Right.
And that's what we should be doing in this time, is going, okay, rather than staying in my house, cooped up, how can I, even if I have to stay cooped up and I can't go anywhere because we've been ordered or whatnot, how can I help other people? FaceTime others, or whatever, Skype or whatever you Google people use. I don't know. We still love you.
Is that a Google thing? Skype?
No, but I don't know what Google. FaceTime's not.
Oh, you're talking about like on phones.
Yeah.
That's a bummer, right?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
So get on, you can have those types of meetings, you can have those types of things and still be social with one another, still encourage. This is a great time even for discipleship.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think, is another place that we could really get into this is you got time on your hands.
Right.
If you got time on your hands, find someone, talk to them, call them up, text with them, whatever you got to do, or meet with them, 6 feet away.
As much as you can. Yeah. Meet at a park or something.
Meet at a park 6 feet away. and talk to each other.
Yeah.
And this is a time where we can do intense discipleship.
Mm-hmm.
This is a time where we can be putting out tons of content. Like
Mm-hmm.
God has given us an opportunity, I think. He has stopped our infighting. I mean, Twitter, even though you have some, it is so much more calm right now.
Everything is.
It's so much nice. And God has taken all of this stuff away from us, and like we said, told us to go to our rooms, and I think that gives us an opportunity, and it gives us an opportunity to thrive, and show the world. So much of Christianity, has been hated for saying we're hateful people. Well, this is our time.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we were hateful before, but how about now we can even like double and triple our efforts at this time to where the world is undeniable in seeing our love. Like they cannot look past it. They'll be like, wow, after everything we said about them, look what they've done.
Right.
And that is how we win.
Yeah.
We don't win by winning. So there's lots of ways to win. I mean, think about it. If we die, let's say we die from the coronavirus, but we were ministering, we still win, right? Because our reward now is in heaven. We're going there. The virus cannot defeat us. It is if you are in Christ, it is impossible for this virus to defeat you. It cannot conquer you. All it can do is free you. All it can do is give you your freedom. So use that and be courageous. And I'm not saying be careless. Don't go where you shouldn't, and obey what the government and what officials have been telling you.
Yeah. Don't greet people with a holy kiss right now.
No.
Don't do that.
And me never, really.
Yeah.
but we can be courageous in what we're doing and not let fear, get us. And I think that's how we show that we win.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. So I mean, I think all that, we just wanted to share all that with you today because like we said, there's a lot.
Yeah.
And when we were talking about what should we talk about today, we wanted it to be kind of just laugh a little bit, but at the same time, just kind of share our hearts, like where we are and where our country is, not just our country, this world.
Right.
And there's hope.
Right.
There's hope, and be the message of hope during this time.
Right.
Don't add to the problem, add to the solution. Be the solution in this time. And so yeah. And here's another thing. If you need something, many of you know how to reach us, Project 224. If you are one of those ones who are maybe listening to this and you're shut in, or you have no means to get groceries or something like that, reach out to us. We'll see what we can do. If we can't help you, we'll find ways to help. We're not going to just speak things and not do it ourselves. So please reach out to us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Many of you know us personally. Reach out to us, text us, call us, email us, whatever you need to do. Reach out.
Let us know.
Let us know what you need. And we want to be there for you. Just like God is always there for us.
Absolutely.
We want to be that. So thank you, everybody.
Absolutely.
Be safe out there. We will be with you soon. I love you, and we'll talk with you later.